And this is another point, is that knowing that you will keep improving as time goes by, and it's okay to be a beginner. I think a lot of people are afraid of this initial phase where the content is not maybe good enough, or not good enough, but it's not maybe up to par with the other content that we see on social media. And it's like, oh, but they have such better camera, better lighting, whatever it is. It's okay. You got to start with what you have. And it's all right to be a beginner. Like, everybody will be a beginner before they are experts. And we cannot skip this step. I think a lot of people try to just like keep over it and like go to the expert. And it doesn't really work that way. Like you said, you have to embrace the suck before you get to the good. And it's just part of the process.
Okay, welcome fellow entrepreneurs and goal-getters to Entrepreneurial Elevation, Unleashing Greatness Within, with myself, your host, Kelley Beveridge, and my special guest today, Annabelle Klein. She's chiming in today from not snowy Berlin. We were just talking about it. I'm chiming in from snowy Calgary, and I'm excited to chat with her. She is a mindset coach or a confident coach, but really she helps business owners and entrepreneurs build their own confidence so that they can grow their business through networking, through sharing content online. And she is just awesome at what she does. She also helps, if you're ever feeling anxious and overwhelmed with what to do and where to start, she supports you in being calm and focused so that you can really align with your business to get results. And we're going to talk today, in her own words, which I love, is from really going from socially awkward, right? Being socially awkward to really being confident as an entrepreneur. And so I think that this is such a relatable topic, especially with social media and just how the heck do we even put ourselves out there. And so I'm just really excited to pick her brain about this. So Annabelle, before we start though, I want to know about your entrepreneurial journey. So welcome to the podcast. And if you could come on and share how you got started, because I was looking through, your content and your bio, and we've had a conversation. And I know that you started your business journey at a young age, actually at 23, and you dabbled with a few ideas of being a business owner, yet quote unquote failed. Yet really you didn't fail. You left and stopped before you even had the chance to be successful because of your own mindset that got in the way and your own limiting beliefs and fears and insecurities. And I think this is so relatable to talk about, because how many people start a business and have a goal and a dream and a hope, and they self-sabotage because they get themselves in the way, right? And so maybe you can share your journey into entrepreneurship.
Yeah, sure. So first of all, hi everybody. Thank you so much for having me here today. I'm so excited. So yeah, like you said, to be honest, I always wanted to have my own business. This was always the dream. I never wanted to work in a like traditional 9 to 5.
Mm-hmm.
I think because I had very terrible bosses in all of the jobs that I had. So I worked my way through university, and I had, basic customer service jobs, student jobs, stuff like that. And the managers that I had, the coworkers that I had weren't really, very inspiring or very uplifting. And I really hated the work environments that I was in. So I always wanted to just have my own thing. And also, I was never actually interested in the job itself. I mean, I would go in and do the work and give it my all because, I was raised to just like never quit. And whatever you do it 100%. So I just kind of stuck through it, but my heart was never really in it and I didn't like it. So I finished university and I finished with a psychology and management degree, but I never wanted to be a psychologist. I really enjoyed the topic itself a lot. And to be honest, I went to university because this is what you're supposed to do. I don't think that we need to go to university that early as we usually do, because I don't know about other people, but I know many people, including myself, who we don't really know what we want to do before we actually live life. So I'd never understand what's the rush in that. So I finished university with this degree that I didn't want to work in the field that I studied. So I decided to travel around Europe for about 8 months. And during that time, I discovered blogging and videography and photography and all of that creative field. And I was fascinated by it. I was fascinated by people who can make money online. And I thought to myself, I can do this.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing I tried was blogging. And like you said, I, tried it for a while, but then I never really gave myself a chance to actually whenever it would hit the point where I'm like, okay, I need to start making money, I would never like give myself a chance to actually do something with the blogging itself. I would go back to sort of, okay, what customer service job I can find. I would go back to like these old beliefs of what a job actually looks like. And from then on, I discovered travel videography. And because I was traveling, I thought, okay, I can do this. But because I was working the customer service jobs, I didn't really have interesting things going on in my life. And I'm like, what am I going to vlog about? So that also went down the drain. And eventually, when I found photography, that was actually the thing that stuck most because it was it was just me basically just doing the creative things without having to overthink it too much. I would just walk around in the city that I was traveling in and just take the photos. And that was the first time when I thought to myself, maybe I can do something here. Maybe I can do something with this. And throughout that time as well, I started actually contacting people for portrait photography. I would go to a new city and I would go on Facebook and say, hey, I'm in town for a couple of days. Who wants their portrait taken? And I was meeting a lot of people that way. This was also something that, like you mentioned, I struggled a lot with social anxiety back then and with social awkwardness. And actually, through photography, I started stepping out of my shell a little bit. I wasn't yet like very confident being around people or comfortable, but I found that when I was hiding behind a camera, it was way easier for me to kind of interact with people because I really, really wanted to interact with them. I just was super scared, like I was super awkward, super self-conscious, and I always had these fears around people. But behind the camera, it was like, okay, we're just going to talk about the poses, where the light is coming from, all these technical things. And it was like sort of easier to step into that. And then I decided that, hey, this is something that I can do full time. So I decided to actually settle in somewhere, perhaps open a photography studio. And that's how I found myself in Berlin. And yeah, but then another funny thing happened is that the COVID hit and I was stuck at home. I couldn't take photos anymore. I couldn't work with people. So I needed to figure out like something to do with all the photos that I had. So I started playing around with them, and that's how I discovered collage art. And I completely fell in love with it. And so I started, playing around with it, and it ended up being my career for about 2 years. I managed to, I was like super consistent with posting my content on Instagram, online, like all these platforms for creative people. And I managed to get a bunch of clients. But throughout that time, what happened is because I was at home most of the time, my social anxiety started coming back a bit. So while clients were finding me by their own for the first year of that business, in the second year, I actually clients weren't really coming to me anymore. And I realized that I had to do something proactive. Like I had to do something by myself to find the clients. And then my fear started coming back again because I didn't want to interact with people and I was super afraid. And that time I asked myself, listen, whenever you want to start a business, these fears always come back and they always stop you from proceeding. So you either do something about this or you go find a normal 9-to-5 and quit this dream of wanting to have a business. So I chose to work on my mindset because the idea of not having my own business was never really an option for me. And so I went down this, rabbit hole of personal development and doing the inner work and just really working on my mindset. And I completely fell in love with that. And I when I sort of came out on the other side and of being, the confident person that I am today. And I'm not saying that, there's no more work to be done because I think we're always a work in progress. But when I came out on this other side and I was so confident in who I was and I looked at the world differently and I was so at ease with who I was, I decided that I wanted to sort of pay it forward and help people do this because I wish I've known these things that I know now when I was starting out. And I wanted to be there for everybody who wants to start a business, who wants to pursue their dreams and have nobody to show them that they can actually do it and they can actually overcome all of the fears that they have, all of the struggles that they're facing, all of the ways they're sabotaging themselves. Because I never want anybody to not go after their dreams because of their own thoughts in their own mind. And that's how I decided to become a coach.
Oh my gosh. You know what? Your story is so great in a way because I feel like I was sharing. It's so relatable. And thank you for sharing. And, a few things as you're speaking, I'm just thinking like, one, how often do we follow the path of what we're supposed to do, right? I as well went to university because it's what, my parents wanted, society, it's the way to go. Yet I never really felt a tug to go to school, yet I did. Nothing, not that there's anything wrong with school, but to your point, right? Yet you had this tug on your heart that you wanted to be an entrepreneur. And what I love about your story is you just went and you put one foot in front of the other and started trying different things to figure out what you like. Yes, maybe you didn't follow through on them, right? Yet you put yourself out there to just start to see what you like and what you can land on. And just this idea of being socially awkward and having anxiety and fear. So there's this scientific framework that literally talks about how people run a pattern in their life when we start new things, that when we first get started, it's exciting. It feels exciting because of the hope, the possibility, what is available to us. But as we start to take steps towards it, fear flags pop up, our own self-limiting beliefs pop up, obstacles, adversity, things we didn't know were going to happen, like COVID, right? And what happens is we start to feel frustrated and overwhelmed and anxious, exactly like you described. But here's the most important piece is what do you do right when those feelings pop up? Because if you don't address them and move into the investment of yourself and the investment of your craft, you will quit and go back to start and find something else new again. And this framework says that 95% of people follow that pattern in life. And you did that the first few times and then realized this is getting painful, right? And I've got to do something different. And you went and started to invest in yourself to bust up that pattern so that, because the truth is it would just show up in the next thing you chose to do, like you shared. And so I just kind of wanted to share what you just said in a different way, because as you're speaking, I'm like, yes, like this is just so many people run this pattern and it does not serve us, yet we do it. I've done it as well. And nothing's going to change unless we choose to do something different. So like kudos to you. Like that's so awesome. And you are making an impact now, right? With other people in their mindset. So I'm curious, what would you say would be some initial steps? So for people who are listening who are like, oh my gosh, this is me, I'm running this pattern, right? Like my fears and my insecurities and my overwhelm are getting the best of me once I get started in things. And I don't want to keep letting this pattern take over. So what are some tips that you would give people who are maybe in that space right now to start to build their confidence? Like how do they lean into being confident and moving forward, even when it is uncomfortable?
Right. Hi, I'm Tanya, and this is Julie, and we are the founders of Coach Core, your all in one solution for building and scaling a successful coaching business.
At Coach Core, we provide you with everything you need in one place. You can house your courses, manage memberships, run email campaigns, and create stunning websites and funnels, all with our easy-to-use platform.
And it's not just about the software. We offer built-in coaching and mentorship, helping you implement best practices from certified NLP practitioners and story brand coaches. And that's just scratching the surface of what's inside.
And that's why we're excited to sponsor the Entrepreneurial Elevation podcast with Kelley Beveridge. Kelley is a thought leader who inspires and elevates entrepreneurs worldwide.
We believe in the power of community and continuous learning, and this podcast is a fantastic resource for any coach looking to truly grow their practice.
So join us on this journey. Tune into the Entrepreneurial Elevation podcast for insights and inspiration, and visit Coach Core to transform your coaching business today.
Coach Core, your path to coaching success.
So first of all, be very, very clear on why you want to make this change.
Mm-hmm.
So, we make change when the place that we are in right now is so uncomfortable that we just don't want to spend another minute in it anymore. Like this is how change happens usually.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to be clear on what you want in life and why is the place you are in right now is not the place that you want to be in. And what do you want actually? How do you want your life to be like? And when we're talking about confidence, so I believe, and I think this is, the right definition for it, is that confidence comes from competence. So when you do something multiple times, for example, a person who is confident speaking in front of a crowd is confident because they've done it multiple times before. The first time we do it, yes, it's terrifying, but when the thoughts of the doubtful thoughts come up and that tell us, oh, everybody's gonna laugh at you, nobody's gonna want to hear whatever you have to say, all these thoughts that come up, when we don't let them stop us and we go ahead and we do the thing that we want to do anyway, that's how we build our confidence, is by taking action, by doing. And I just want to point something out here, that confidence doesn't really translate to other areas of your life. So for example, if you're confident at speaking on stage, because you've done it multiple times, you're not going to necessarily be confident speaking in front of a camera if you've never done it before. So people usually think like, oh, but you did this thing so well, how come you're scared to do this thing now? Because it's not related. Like, you have to have the experience, the evidence sort of to show yourself that you can do it. So the way you actually go ahead and do this, the way to start building the competence is by doing the things that scare you. And the way to do the things that scare you actually comes from self-esteem. And this is, I think, where people sometimes kind of miss between confidence and self-esteem, the difference between the two. So self-esteem is when you're facing something new, a new challenge or something that you want to try in life, and you say to yourself, I can figure this out. This is a person who have high self-esteem. Confidence is, again, it's skill-based. So the way to build confidence is by actually having the high self-esteem in the first place, to say to yourself, I'm going to try this thing. And once you try it, then you build up your confidence in that particular area.
I love that. And I so agree, right? It's just about, my mentor used to tell me, Kelley, you just have to be willing to enjoy the suck, right? Meaning like, just be bad at something until you get good at something. And guess what? The first time you do something, it's going to be your best yet, because it's the first time. And I'm like, okay, right,
Yeah.
good way to look at it. But it's like going through those growing pains, right? Just knowing that we're constantly improving. And, I think you have a tagline or even something you teach where it's about from perfection to progress. And I really like that, because I think sometimes our fear of judgment gets so much in the way that we don't even allow ourselves to take that first step. Right. And it really is about like practice makes improvement and progress. And like you said, the more you do something, the more competent you get, the better your confidence becomes. So can you maybe can we relate this to putting ourselves, like if we're speaking to entrepreneurs and business owners or influencers or just people who like have this desire to share their message through social media, yet and you're like, oh my gosh, I have all these things I want to talk about, but never do it or just dabble because of this massive anxiety around what are people going to think, right? This fear of judgment. What tips do you have, or what guidance can you give, or what did you go through when you started to get yourself out from behind the camera yourself and putting yourself out in front of your audience? Like, what are some things that people can do to bust through that fear?
Oh, I love this question so much. I actually have a program coming about how to consistently post your content without being afraid of what people will think, and regardless of how many likes or comments you get, because I know that this is another thing that really stops people from showing off consistently. The first thing you want to do is, again, get very clear on why you want to post your content. Why is it important for you to show up in front of your audience? Why do you want, so usually it comes from the desire to help, right? We put out our services out there, our products, because they help people. Why this product? Why this service? Why do you want to help these particular people? Get very clear on that. And you have to sort of be, believe in what you're offering so much that you know that people are going to benefit from it. So it's not about as well saying anything and everything. Like, you have to know that whatever you're saying is making a difference. And this has to come from a belief, even before your content is good, or you think, because let's face it, when we start, yes, the content is not going to be the best, right? But we learn and we grow as we go. And this is another point, is that knowing that you will keep improving as time goes by. And it's okay to be a beginner. I think a lot of people are afraid of this initial phase where the content is not maybe good enough, or not good enough, but it's not maybe up to par with the other content that we see on social media. And it's like, oh, but they have such better camera, better lighting, whatever it is. It's okay. You got to start with what you have. And it's all right to be a beginner. Like, everybody will be a beginner before they are experts. And we cannot skip this step. I think a lot of people try to just like keep over it and like go to the expert. And it doesn't really work that way. Like, like you said, you have to embrace the suck before you get to the good. And it's just part of the process. Like, I think we look at people who are at the top of the mountain and we think that they didn't climb there and we are the only ones who are in the climb. But that's not true. These people, they were down there, but we just don't see it anymore. So you got to remember that. And also to remember that the more you do it, the easier it gets.
Mhm.
This is just how it is. You just have to keep repeating and going over and over again. And this goes for everything, the thoughts that come up, the anxiety, the fears. So you post something one time and you realize, people didn't like it, but I'm going to post the next thing and people will like it probably. The next time after that, you post something, maybe it doesn't really get engagement. So it's always like an up and down thing. It's never like a linear line or just like straight up, it's always going to be, there's always going to be ups and downs, and that's fine. So and this is like ties back to what I said in the beginning. The reason for showing up has to be also greater than you. It has to be about your audience. This is something that helps me personally a lot. Like the moment I know that I have like sort of fears or anything when it comes to my content or like the engagement or whatever it is, I think to myself, okay, right now it's all pointed towards me, and I should shift my focus from me to my audience because I want to show up for that person that needs me to show up today. And that's the most important thing.
Oh my gosh, I enjoy that. And I'm thinking like too, if fear is popping up, like what you just said is so relevant. Like if I'm fearful or I'm like, oh my gosh, what are people going to think? Or was the lighting okay? Did my hair look okay? Like I'm looking at myself on this podcast right now. It's in the morning for me. I'm like, oh man, I look tired. And then I'm like, well, whatever, we're shooting. Even it's like all these thoughts that go through our mind that is like criticizing of self and self-judgment. That's about me. It's taken off the focus of why we're here in the first place or why we're sharing content in the first place, which is to truly make it about the audience and to be of service and to share a message. And so what you just shared is really great advice, is like, and this is kind of what I heard you say, I'm paraphrasing, but like if I'm in that space, it's like I'm making it about me and just have that awareness and be like, hey, shift, right? This isn't about me. It's about how I can be of service to the people that are listening. And I think that's such good advice, and what you shared, and that it's got to be bigger about just doing the task and creating content and why we're putting it out there in the first place, right? I'm curious because as we're sitting here talking about this topic, how relevant do you think, because here's the other thing, like I'm a bit on the cusp of like, I'm 47. So I'm like old school before social media and then like after social media, right? Like when I started my business, we didn't even use social media. It wasn't even a thing. So I think like some of this topic can be age relevant as well, right? And so I'm just curious, like coming into embracing social media, like how important do you think that is in business now again, to actually be willing, like there's those funny memes out there, right? Of like the older generation attempting to like get it together when it comes to social media. How important do you think that is for business growth and business impact nowadays to be willing to change and embrace it?
I think it's super important, but it's not everything in business. I think actually there's a lot of business owners out there who are making great impact and have a lot of audience, have a lot of clients through one-on-one connection. I think that's the most important thing, because social media is awesome for having a larger impact, and especially in sort of later stages of your business, because it's a very, very long process to grow social media. It's not like, this advice of start an Instagram page and you will have 100 clients tomorrow. It doesn't really work that way, especially in 2024 going 2025. Like nowadays, the market is so saturated. Everybody is trying to make money online. Everybody. So the only people who are gonna, it's a matter of sort of who's gonna stick it out the longest. And the people who are successful are the people who've been doing this for years and years and years. And yes, if you do this for years and years, you will have a lot of impact on social media, and eventually clients will find you by themselves instead of you having to go find the clients. So to answer your question, it's very important, but it's important to know that this is a very long-term game. It's not something that you do from like today, even like in a couple of months or even a couple of years. I think it's decades worth of work, to be honest with you. And most of the clients, and this is how I find my clients, is through making connections. So what I mean by that is joining groups, joining masterclasses. If you're at a coffee place, you sit next to somebody at a co-working area, you start talking to them. Even on social media itself, like I do a lot of networking on Instagram itself. If I see an interesting profile, I start a conversation with that person. And I don't like go at them with my offer. No, I actually start from a genuine place of like, oh, I saw this post and I really liked it. Like genuine talking to people and starting conversations. This is what matters in business. Yes. I think content is super important because if you start a conversation with somebody at a networking event or whatever it is, and that person wants to know what you're doing, you can send them somewhere. And usually you can send them to your content. They see what you're up to. If you have a podcast, they can binge listen to it. If you have a YouTube channel, they can watch it. If you have posts on social media, they can read through them, see if anything of it is relevant, and maybe then they will become a client. It's very important, again, for nurturing your audience and for building trust, because it's super important. So I think it's extremely important, but it's not the only thing by itself. So like, I think we shouldn't give it the power or it shouldn't take away from the other important work that we need to do outside of social media.
Yeah, no, I love your answer. I'm sitting here thinking too, because you talked about you used to hide behind your camera as you were taking photos. And I think sometimes with social media, it's very easy to hide behind social media, even though we're talking about putting yourself out there and, being online. And once you develop the confidence for that, I know a lot of people just think, well, I'm just going to hang out on social media now and my business will grow. And to your point, well, no, you got to blend the both, right? I like to say offline and online. And you can fall into the trap of now hiding behind your social media, profiles without actually going out there and putting yourself out there and asking for the sale and getting the sale and, creating those connections. And so I think that that's also just super brilliant that social media is the long game. It builds credibility, it builds trust and likability. And there's still an element, especially when you're just getting started, that you've got to have the courage to put yourself out there, in person. And so, you talked a little bit about that, but I'm curious, what would you say, like going out and networking, or like you said, even if you're in person, let's say networking, or you're at a coffee shop, or you're online and you're doing different networking with groups. So let's talk about in person and then online. What are some tips you have for somebody who is socially awkward to like how to talk to strangers, right? Like, because this is a skill too. Like, how do we talk to strangers? Like, if I'm sitting there having coffee and there's somebody sitting beside me, how do I even start that engagement? So how do we talk to strangers when we're networking in person, and how do we talk to strangers when we're networking online?
So when it comes to in person and also actually online,
Mhm.
first of all, the most important thing is to have curiosity. So again, removing the focus from yourself and putting it on the other person. And I think this is something that a lot of people don't know how to do. And in person, also a very important skill to have is listening to what the person is saying. Also a very lost skill, the skill of listening. So usually what I like to do at in-person networking events is just like going up to people and introducing yourself, like the simplest thing ever. Also, like try to remove any sort of expectations of where the conversation would go. Don't go like thinking that I want to find a client. No, go in there thinking I want to connect with people. Because you never know. You never know where your next client is going to come from. You could be talking to somebody, they're not become a client, but maybe they know somebody that will. So just go in there with just the intention of wanting to get to know people, just hearing their stories, whatever they have to say. And in more practical advice, I would say, because I just wrote a post about this, so this is still fresh in my mind, I do have a couple of like practical tips for people who are socially awkward. So hold something in your hands.
Mhm.
It would be helpful if it's a bottle of water or a glass of water, because I wouldn't recommend you drinking alcohol because it actually increases the anxiety. Don't drink something bubbly because it can inflate your stomach and it's a bit uncomfortable. So drink water because it keeps you, light and relaxed. And you can also hold something in your hands so you don't feel awkward about like not knowing where to put your hands.
Yeah.
And just listen to the other person, like ask them question about themselves. Like usually, the conversation goes into what do you do? And then how did you get into this field? How long have you been doing? Like stuff like that, How do you know this? How often do you come to this event? How do you know the organizers? Like just these questions of like getting to know the person in front of you. And from then on, usually what happens to me, to be honest, is that I talk so much about the other person that they want to know about me because like they've been talking about themselves for so long, and eventually they open up the space for me to talk. And sometimes I never like also push my social media on anybody. If it comes from them, it comes from them. Like I had so many incidences where I was at networking events and somebody would come to me and they're like, "Hey, let's connect." And I'm like, who are you? Like, why would I want to connect with you? I don't like it when people follow me, to be honest, because I don't want you to follow me and not engage with my content because it's bad for the algorithm.
Yeah.
So whenever, like, I'm like, don't follow me just for the sake of follow. I think I hate that. So people who tell me, let's connect, and I'm like, what for? Like, we didn't start a conversation. If you want to connect, it's because you want to continue the conversation, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, just like be genuine, be curious, just go there with the intention of connecting. And if you have a problem connecting with people and being curious about them, then maybe you shouldn't be in this business, because having a business is all about people and you have to be interested in people.
Mhm.
The same thing with online. It's usually, to be honest, I like it more because what I do is, like I said, I see an interesting post or an interesting profile and I check out what kind of content the person has on there. And I see what kind of words they use. For example, when I have like this thing, maybe it's just me, but I don't like it when people use the word bitch, especially when women call each other bad bitch. I don't like it. So I know this is not a person I really want to connect with. Just look at the language they use, see if you connect with anything that they share, if you have the same values, if they made a point that you really agree with. Then write something underneath the post that is actually adding to the conversation, not, the generic, "Oh, great post, thank you so much," or don't comment with emojis or anything like that. Like, really add something to the conversation. If you have any questions, ask the questions. And from there, if I see that the person engages, because sometimes people don't really engage, and I'm like, okay, this person is not really interested in like creating conversation. They just want to post their content. If I see that they do want to engage, then I check out their stories and I comment as well on their stories. But again, only if I have something to say.
Yeah.
And from then on, we can have a conversation in the DMs, because when you comment in the stories, you get access to the DMs. And that's how the conversation goes. Again, from curiosity. Sometimes, like many times, to be honest, I go through this process and I see that people don't really want to talk. That's fine. I move on to the next person. So also very important to never take things personally. Like never, because you never know why the person doesn't want to connect or they don't really feel like talking.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's not up to you.
These are such great tips. And so I'm curious because, we're talking about everything you're sharing is so valuable. And the truth is, though, it takes time, right? And so I'm just curious what your day looks like, Annabelle, because, I know sometimes I can get sucked down the rabbit hole of social media. And then I find myself being unproductive and doing a lot of, unnecessarily scrolling. And you're giving really good strategic advice on what to focus on. So how much time do you spend in your business on a regular basis, creating content, going and engaging on other people's content to create those connections? How often do you go to a networking event? Like, what guidance do you have around that so that all of a sudden 2 hours worth of productive, healthy business building work doesn't actually take 6 hours? I'm just curious because you're giving such good strategic advice on how to start to create connections, have some courage to put yourself out there, whether it be through engaging with other people on social media that starts a conversation, whether it be through putting content out there consistently or going out and networking as well. So I'm curious what your advice would be and what you do such that you can be really productive with these strategies and not have it turn into a time waste or a time suck. Because I know that I can sit down to create content and what really quote unquote should take an hour sometimes can turn into 3 hours because now I'm scrolling, now I'm going down rabbit holes, and we can really waste a lot of time when it comes to social media business activity. So what are some tips that you have to take all of this advice you're giving and channel it into your daily to-do tasks?
So when it comes to networking online, I cap it out at 1 hour. I never go beyond that, regardless of how many people I talk to, because it like you said, it can get very overwhelming and it's very energy draining. So sometimes I even do it like 30 minutes, then a break, then another 30 minutes, because you're reading a lot of content, you're consuming a lot of content, and you're also having to think of things to share. So it is very, very energy draining. It's like some of the hardest work, to be honest, to do. When it comes to creating content, I actually have specific days for it because, like you said, it takes a while to do it. And I also recently started doing YouTube videos, and those take time to film and edit. And also, doing the thumbnail, the description, all of these things, they take a lot of time. So I have almost 3 days a week, to be honest, dedicated to content alone. I do brainstorming and writing on different days than filming and designing. So it all comes to just having a very good system for creating content, basically. Just also, what really helps me in the beginning, it helped me a lot to just sit down and understand what it actually takes to create every piece of content. So when it comes to Reels, you have the writing, the filming, the editing, if we're talking head reels. If not, then shooting the B-rolls. So there's a lot of like small steps that goes into that. So I also schedule these steps on different days of the week. And what's also very important to know is what kind of content do you want to post? Because like in the beginning, we want to post everything. We want to be everywhere on every social media platform, but that's not really realistic. So ask yourself what will be sustainable for you to do, because it's way more important to be consistent with your content, even if it's once a week, than having this desire to post 5 times a week, but you cannot really do that because you have other things going on in your life. So what I would recommend is to usually take a look at your calendar, see what you have going on, see what are the anchors, what are the things that you absolutely can't move, and then see how can you place these small steps that I talked about, like alongside these other things that you have going on. And that's how you make it happen. But you have to be like very strategic about it.
Yeah, no, I think it's brilliant advice. And, I always say if it doesn't get scheduled, it won't happen, right? And it's also about,
Yeah.
it's about being strategic, like you shared, like sitting down and mapping out. And we all, I think, design our calendars in a different way, and we all know ourselves. So like, when do you feel creative? When do you have the most energy, right? When would it work for you to be in the creation mode of shooting the videos and writing the things versus I like to call it red time, where it's like the editing and, the techie pieces. And so like really, and I think that give yourself grace too, as you're practicing this, because you'll probably need to do things differently a few times until you fall into a rhythm of what works for you. But I think that's such brilliant advice. It's not just about being casual and being random and just creating when you feel like it. It really is about taking your business seriously and being strategic with what you're doing and what you're using your time for. And so I love that. So Annabelle, like you have such great advice, and I really love how you help people go from being socially awkward to confident with all these things. Where can people find you? Like if people are listening to this and they want to know more and see more of your content and more of what you have available. So where can people find you and learn more about your business and how you are of service to others?
Yeah, sure. So everything is on Instagram, to be honest. I'm at It's Annabelle Klein. I have a YouTube channel. I have a podcast that you can listen to. I interview experts on there. Kelley was actually on there recently. So that episode is coming soon. I have a program launching soon. It's probably going to be, though, before this podcast episode launches, but I am going to run it again. So I'm just going to mention it briefly for anybody who's interested. It's essentially a mini mind for people who want to consistently post their content without fearing the judgment of other people. So the judgment part is, I think, the number one thing that stops people from posting online, and especially when it comes to their business, because it's their baby and they wanna have everything be perfect. So in this mini mind, we tackle how to actually create the system. The question that you just asked, like how to create a very strategic system to post your content. And we also tackle the mindset part of it. So how to let go of judgment, how to let go of the fear of perfectionism, of the imposter syndrome, how to let yourself be a beginner and just post your content consistently and like slowly grow your audience. It's all focused on long-term achievement and not, instant gratification, because this is very important in business, to let go of the amount of stress that we put on every single post. It's very important to know that it's not about this one single post that you're posting today. It's about everything that you're doing. It all compiles into your business in the end. It's not just about one thing. So this program is going to start on the 6th of January. And again, I'm going to run it again throughout the year. So you can find it on my Instagram. All my links are there.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, definitely check that out. I think you created a brilliant training, because that will support so many people in, one, breaking through the fear, two, knowing what to do and how to do it, and then three, the consistency piece, which is what people struggle with as well in a big way, right? Is being consistent with all of this. And so it can be overwhelming. So to have somebody guide you through that is amazing. So definitely check out Annabelle's course and check out Annabelle. And so, okay, Annabelle, I have 3 last questions. So I'm curious, right? You've gone through all these chapters of your entrepreneurial journey. And so what would you say today would be your definition of success?
What is success? Such an interesting question. I think to me, success is knowing that I'm making a difference, that I'm helping people, that I'm giving my best, the best that I can, like that I'm not half-assing my business. And when it comes to financially, I would say being able to afford anything that I want. And I don't want a lot of things, but I want to have this feeling of not having to check my bank account every time I want to go buy something.
Totally.
So I think that would be it. It's not even about being wealthy. It's about having a rich life. I think that's what success is to me. Being able to travel, to see the world, to read as many books as I want. Yeah, spend time with people that I love.
I like that. A rich life. I like that. Okay, so my podcast is called Entrepreneurial Elevation, yet the tagline is Unleashing Greatness Within. What are 3 tips you would give someone to unleash their inner greatness?
Such a great question. Be kind to yourself and to other people, because I think kindness matters a lot. It makes a difference to be a kind person, especially in this world. And when you help other people, that's when you realize how much power you have. And that really can bring out your greatness, I feel. 3 tips for greatness. Keep learning, always. Always stay curious about yourself and about other people. No matter, like, if you have a romantic partner, always be curious about them. Never take them for granted. Because I think, always also about yourself, because I think this is the thing that will make you get up in the morning excited about your day every single day. Like, oh, what I can create today, or how is my partner going to surprise me today? Anything that you take for granted, always be curious about it. Like, try not to take things for granted. Another thing is to take care of yourself physically. Like, do sports, do something active. I think this will show you how powerful you are, regardless what it is. Like, my thing is, I'm currently on a muscle building journey, so I'm lifting very heavy weights at the gym, and it's been showing me how capable I am, and it's freaking empowering when you do something like that. If this is not your thing, I totally get it, but do something active, do something where you can challenge your body, because when you challenge your body, you also challenge your mind, and it's interconnected. Sometimes you don't want to do something physical, but your mind is the one who's at play here, and the more you practice doing that, the more powerful you feel, and you will basically feel like you can do anything, to be honest.
Oh my gosh, such great tips. Okay, last question. What would be a call to action that you would share with the listeners today that they could go out and implement this week when it comes to being a bit socially awkward or fearing judgment and going and putting themselves out there to build confidence?
I'll share with you something that I love to tell my audience all the time is rebel against your thoughts. Whatever thought you have that is stopping you from doing something that you want to do, tell it to fuck off and just go ahead and do it. Just rebel against it. Like, yeah.
Like, literally, right? Like, just do that and then watch your life flourish. Watch yourself have a rich life, right? When you rebel against your thoughts. So I love that. And just what a perfect way to end the call. Annabelle, thank you so much for being here. You're just awesome. I'm so glad we met. And this is, your and I's new friendship is such an example of building confidence in business and networking and meeting new people and aligning with people with similar values and businesses and messaging. And so I'm just really grateful to have met you. And I'm just excited for what you're going to create in the new year and just how you're going to support other people in building their confidence. I think what you do is amazing and it's needed out there. So thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me. It's been an honor. Thank you so much.
Hello, everybody. Hopping on to share with you, being that it is the beginning of the new year, that what a great time to really take a look and reassess and reevaluate where we're at in our life, both personally and professionally, and gaining clarity around the things that we say that we want. And the thing I always like to say is, if you don't know what you want, what are the chances of getting it? And so I have created an online course that I want to make accessible to everybody called the Success Achievement Blueprint, Becoming a Great Goal Achiever. And it will guide you in getting clear on your vision and your values and aligning both of those to goals and intentions and things that you really have a heart's desire for and are internally inspired to be in action towards. It will set you up to win, to not only set goals, yet learn how to achieve them, because that really is why we set goals in the first place, right? Gives us direction towards the things that we desire so we can constantly work on attracting and manifesting and creating more things in our life to become and live an abundant life. And obviously, a big part of that is who is important for you to become along that journey. And so the course helps you set goals. It helps you learn what you need to do to implement and achieve the goals, how to create your schedule around your values and the things that really matter to you. So you actually free up mental time and mental clutter and actual time. And it will really just give you the awareness tools, the mindset tools, and the business tools, and the actual tools just to support you in getting your goals and staying the course. And I like to say what my mentor always used to say and tell me is that success is forward progress towards your worthy goals. And that's really why I designed this course. And so look in the show notes, there's a link for you to access it. It is years and years and years of experience that I have had for myself, investing in courses and classes and actually being out in life, setting goals and achieving goals, and what I've went through. And so there's a lot of value jam-packed into this course, and I'm offering it at 67 Canadian dollars. And the reason why it's at such a low price is not because of the content or the value. It's because I truly have a desire to support people in knowing what they want and where they're going and by when and why, so that you can step into that and become the best version of yourself to achieve it. And that really is a big mission in my life. So I want to make this course available to everybody. And the last thing I want to share is I actually created this course a few years ago during COVID while I was in lockdown in South Africa. I couldn't leave the house. I was working on my own business and I thought, what else can I do? And so I created this course in this little corner in the room that I was in because I didn't actually have Wi-Fi. I had to borrow my neighbors, and I was stuck in the country. We couldn't leave. We couldn't fly out. We weren't allowed to leave the apartment. And I used that time to take a lot of my knowledge and understanding around setting and achieving goals, and I channeled it into a course. And I now am in a space in my life where I want to share it and promote it and have it available to you. So please check it out. Even if you know how to set goals, it's nice to have somebody guide you through and get really crystal clear on what are you focusing on this year, with some new tools in your tool belt to accelerate that growth and attract more of what you deserve into your life. And so just thank you so much. And that is my gift to you, $67. Check it out below. And I hope that I can just be a part of your journey in a positive way. And best of luck to you for the year of 2025.